from serial number 1 to 6 in today's revised list of business.
Statements by ministers. Sri V. Muralidharan.
Chairman, sir, with your permission, on behalf of my senior colleague Sri Nitin Jairam Gadkari ji, I lay on the table of the House a statement regarding status of implementation of recommendations contained in the 278th report of the Department-related Parliamentary Standing Committee on Transport, Tourism and Culture on the demands for grants 2020-21 pertaining to the Ministry of Road Transport and Tourism.
Sri Sripada Yaso Nayak.
With kind permission,
Sripadji.
I rise to make a statement regarding the status of the implementation of the recommendation. Sir.
Sripadji has met with a very serious accident, life-threatening accident practically, and he has come back. All the best to you, please.
Sir, I rise to make a statement regarding the status of implementation of the recommendation contained in the 40th report of the Department-related Parliamentary Standing Committee on Defence on the demand of the grant 2018-19 on General Defence Budget, BRO, ICG, MES, DGD, DPSU, Welfare of Ex-Servicemen, Defence Pension, and ECH demand number 19 and 22, sir.
Dr. Jitendra Singh ji.
Chairman, sir, with your kind permission, I rise to lay on the table of the House a statement regarding status of implementation and recommendations / observations contained in the 27th report of the Department-related Parliamentary Standing Committee on Home Affairs on the action taken by the government on recommendations / observations contained in 225th report on the demands for grants 2020-21 pertaining to the Ministry of Development of Northeastern Region, Doner. Thank you, Chairman, sir.
I have to inform members that letters have been received from Sri Kamakya Prasad Tasa and Sri Ajit Kumar Buyan for grant of leave of absence from the sittings of the House due to unforeseen contingent reasons and unavoidable circumstances, respectively from 8th March to 8th April 2021, during the second part of the current 253rd session of the Rajya Sabha. Do they have the permission of the House for remaining absent from 8th March to 8th April 2021 during the second part of the session? उनको मालूम नहीं मेरे ख्याल से. Permission to remain absent is granted. The honorable members, as agreed in the House yesterday, there will be no zero hour, no question hour today. We will take up the National Bank for Financing Infrastructure and Development Bill as passed by the Lok Sabha. However, answers to the questions listed today will be deemed to have been read on the table. And secondly, I have admitted certain, I have admitted certain special mentions. They will be laid on the table at the end of the bill. This has to be taken note by those members. And then Minister Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman to move a motion for consideration of National Bank for Financing Infrastructure and Development. After the bill, there will be farewell to 3 of our members who are retiring from the House. They will be given some time to express their this thing, and also Leader of the House or Leader of the Opposition, because only 3 members out of 3, only 2 are present. So, on behalf of all of you, I will compliment them. That will be better, I think. Madam, Nirmala Sitharaman.
Sir, I rise to move that the bill to establish the National Bank for Financing Infrastructure and Development to support the development of long-term non-recourse infrastructure financing in India, including development of the bonds and derivatives markets necessary for infrastructure financing, and to carry on the business of financing infrastructure and for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto, as passed by the Lok Sabha, be taken into consideration.
Motion moved Members who want to speak, they will do it, and afterwards Minister will reply. Sri Jairam Ramesh to initiate the debate.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I'll be very brief since I know honorable members want to leave as early as possible. I rise to speak on the Land Fee Bill 2021. But before I get into the bill, I want to give a brief history, because the idea of a DFI is not new in India. It has a long history in India. In fact, the very first DFI, Development Finance Institution, was set up in March of 1948 after the then Parliament, the Constituent Assembly, passed the IFCI Act of 1948 when R.K. Shanmugam Chetty was the finance minister. In 1955, ICICI was established, not by an act of Parliament, but by an executive decision, and ICICI was meant to be in the private sector. In July 1964, when Mr. T.T. Krishnamachari was the finance minister, Parliament passed the IDBI Act, and the Industrial Development Bank of India came into being. Sir, when the history of industrialization in India is written, the role of IFCI, the role of ICICI, and the role of IDBI is going to be crucial. They have been responsible for the development of Indian business, for the development of Indian corporates, and I think as we launch a new chapter in the DFI, we should recognize the historic role played by IFCI, ICICI, and IDBI. Then, sir, in January 1981, Parliament passed the NABARD Act, National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development. That was also a development finance institution for agriculture and rural development, and Mr. R. Venkatraman was the finance minister at that point of time. So the NABARD Act was formed. Then in November 1989, when Mr. S.B. Chavan was the finance minister, Parliament passed the SIDBI Act, Small Industrial Development Bank of India, which is headquartered in Lucknow. This was also a development finance institution, and this was passed by an act of Parliament. So all the DFIs I have mentioned, IFCI, IDBI, NABARD, and SIDBI, were created by acts of Parliament after extensive debate and scrutiny in Parliament, and ICICI was entirely in the private sector. So when Dr. Manmohan Singh presented his budget in July of 1991, he set up what is known as the Narasimhan Committee on the financial sector. Mr. Narasimhan was a distinguished banker, a distinguished economist, and they submitted that report, and that report was tabled on the House, in both Houses of Parliament, on the 17th of December 1991. And the Narasimhan Committee came to the conclusion that the era of DFIs is over. The DFIs have played an important role in India's industrialization, but we need to move away from the concept of DFIs for a variety of reasons. And hence, in 1996, when Mr. Chidambaram was the finance minister, the IDFC was created, the Infrastructure Development Finance Company, headquartered in Bombay. And in 2006, another company, the India Investment Infrastructure Finance Company, IIFCL, was created also when Mr. Chidambaram was the finance minister. So the story is that up to 1990, India created DFIs through acts of Parliament. But after 1990, we did not create organizations through statutes. We did not create statutory organizations. We created companies under the Companies Act. This was the model that we adopted. 30 years after Dr. Manmohan Singh's budget, the clock has turned back, and we are going back to the DFI era. And my first question to the Honorable Finance Minister, what has prompted this reversal of path, of going from the idea of a company under the Companies Act to a company sanctioned by an act of parliament? This is the first important question that the House must address. Why a statutory corporation and not a company under the Companies Act? Second, sir, this bill is a very ambitious bill. The Finance Minister, in her speech, has already outlined what this organization will do. She has provided 20,000 crores in this budget, and she is hoping that in 5 years from now, the loan portfolio will be 5 lakh crores. The initial paid-up capital of this company is going to be 1 lakh crores, and the government shall, not may, shall hold a minimum of 26%. So, my question to the Honorable Finance Minister is, this is a government company. Huge resources are going to be mobilized. No oversight whatsoever. No CBI, no CVC, no CAG. I can understand CBI and CVC, but why no CAG? So in the last 5 years, the number of CAG reports has come down dramatically. In 2014, CAG submitted 55 reports. In 2020, the CAG submitted 14 reports. The CAG is a constitutional body. The Public Accounts Committee is the most important committee of Parliament. And this organization that we are creating, paid up capital of 1 lakh crores, government equity 26%, loan portfolio of 5 lakh crores, no external oversight, no external surveillance, no external monitoring. Madam Finance Minister, sir, I submit to you that this is a most undesirable state of affairs. Not only that, Section 17 of this Act empowers the government to extend sovereign guarantee in the case of a default. No external oversight, no surveillance, no CAG, no monitoring, but government will extend sovereign guarantee. So I fail to understand the logic of this. And I think you're opening, today it is your government, tomorrow it could be any other government, you're creating an act in perpetuity. And I think this idea of creating an act of parliament without parliamentary scrutiny, even before the bill is passed, and no CAG after the bill is passed, and the facility to extend a sovereign guarantee is, in my view, a highly undesirable state of affairs. So there is one phrase in the bill which justifies the lack of external oversight. Act of good faith. The management of this company will be protected for decisions taken as an act of good faith. So what is act of good faith? Who will determine act of good faith? What criteria will be used? One person's good faith is another person's malicious intent. Who will determine this? What is the transparent set of prior agreed criteria to determine what is good faith? So I think this is a very ambiguous phrase that is used in the Act. It needs to be defined in the rules in a much more elaborate manner so that this act of good faith cannot be a catch-all umbrella phrase to justify any decision taken by the management in the knowledge that the government will provide a sovereign guarantee as a last resort. So, the next question I have of the Honourable Minister, what happens to the other organizations? What happens to LIC, which is doing infrastructure financing? What happens to IIFCL, which is doing infrastructure financing? Are we creating a gigantic organization under which all these other organizations will be part? Are we creating, like the Singapore company Temasek, are we creating a giant Temasek? So the political economy of Singapore is different from the political economy of India. You can't have a Temasek type of organizations in a democratic political setup like ours. So what is this creature that we are embarking on today without any scrutiny, without going to the standing committee, without going to the select committee, and having just about 2 hours of discussion on such an important bill? Finally, sir, I wish to say that there is a belief in this government that infrastructure can be built with foreign capital. So economic history shows foreign capital has never built infrastructure in any other country. Indian infrastructure will be built with Indian capital. Foreign capital will have an important role to play. We must mobilize global liquidity. But this notion of giving to foreign capital the prime place in the creation of infrastructure, in my view, is completely misplaced. First of all, it is coming from a political party that has always been deeply suspicious of political capital, but there is a transformation of ideas, and that is inevitable. However, I think the most important contribution that we can make to the availability of funds for infrastructure is to stimulate domestic savings. Domestic savings translate to domestic investment. And I would draw the Honorable Finance Minister's attention, and she is perfectly well aware of it, that India's gross domestic savings rates have been coming down steadily. They were at a peak of 38% of GDP 10 years ago, 12 years ago, and now they are hovering at about 30 to 31% of GDP. Rate, I'm not talking of the volume, I'm talking of the rate. The rate has come down. And I think the biggest challenge for us for enhancing the pool of infrastructure is how do you stimulate domestic savings? You have to stimulate domestic savings and not have this dangerous dependence on foreign funds. So, all expert committee reports in the last 30 years on infrastructure financing have pointed out to one fact which has limited the mobilization of funds for infrastructure. Because infrastructure requires long-term funds, 30-year funds, 40-year funds, 50-year funds. India's biggest problem is not the lack of DFI. India's biggest problem is the lack of a deep and liquid corporate bond market. 98% of all the corporate bonds are placed privately. And unless we develop a broad-based bond market, unless we make it liquid, we are not going to be able to get the pool of domestic savings into infrastructure. The Honorable Finance Minister has a paragraph in her budget speech this year on developing an institutional framework for the corporate bond market. I would like her to elaborate on us, what does institutional framework mean? Will it be another institution? Will it be another act of parliament? Will it be another company? What does the word institutional framework mean for the corporate bond market? So, sir, I close here, once again, deeply, deeply regretting that such an important, far-reaching, and perhaps even desirable bill has not undergone any scrutiny by any standing committee, by any select committee. There has been no discussion. There will be discussion here for less than about 2 hours when everybody wants to leave as early as possible. I wish it had gone through a greater process of consultations. Most importantly, I request the Honorable Finance Minister to revisit the fundamental assumption of this bill, which is no external oversight, no investigating agency, no audit, no external surveillance, and we believe in act of good faith. Who will determine good faith is completely left unanswered. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Syed Jafar Islam. Honorable members, I have been receiving slips just now suggesting they want to participate. Time allocated and also time allotted to parties is already there. So keep that in mind, and everybody has to adhere to the time that is given.
थैंक यू ऑनरेबल चेयरमैन सर। आज इस मौके पे मैं आपका आभारी हूँ और आपके पार्टी की लीडरशिप का आभारी हूँ जिन्होंने मुझे मौका दिया इस महत्वपूर्ण बिल पे चंद अल्फाज बोलने का। थैंक यू वेरी मच सर। टुडे आई वेरी फॉन्डली रिमेंबर सर, देयर इज अ फेमस philosopher, Spanish philosopher, his name was George Santayana. What did he say? Centuries ago, sir. He said, those who do not learn from the history are doomed to fail. I think when Jairam Ramesh sir was talking about the various institutions which has been, development financial institution which has been set up in the country since 1948, starting with IFCI, IDBI, ICIC, and many more institutions which had been set up. But there was, we do not discount the utilities of those institutions. They have been instrumental in developing industrialization in the country. But they had outlived the utility, and there were some inherent problem or issues with those institutions, and that's why they did not last long. Take the case of IDBI. It was set up in 1964 with so much fanfare, but it did not last long, and it was Narasimhan Committee which had recommended to make it a universal bank. Why? Because there was an issue, and I will come back to that issue, sir. But today, first of all, I would like to thank the Honorable Prime Minister, the Honorable Finance Minister, for having acceded to the request made by the financial market. It was a long outstanding demand after the IDBI bank was, IDBI as an institution under Companies Act of 4A was turned into a universal bank. Since then, the long outstanding demand which was pending for successive government, and particularly the UPA government, has never paid heed to those requests of the financial market, that a separate financial dedicated institution is required to propel the economy. And today, I'm sure the financial market will be extremely happy, and especially when they see the bill which embodies all the relevant aspects of a financial development financial institution which should be having to ensure that it plays a very important and pivotal role in developing and financing the infrastructure space. Sir, our colleague from the opposition was talking about those institutions. He referred about IDBI, IFCI, and other institutions, but they had a limited role of financing, sir, infrastructure financing and industrialization. But they never had the development of financial development responsibility. And this particular development financial institution has dual role, financing and development as well, of a structure, a framework in the system which actually ensures that the financial market has the ability to fund those projects in infrastructure which has now not been being funded. So, sir, I would like to also remind the members that since 2014, the Honorable Prime Minister from day one has stated that we want to build a new India. What does that new India suggest, sir? That it has to have modern infrastructure facilities. Do we have the modern infrastructure facilities? I will ask the opposition bench, particularly the principal opposition party, which had been in power, but did they really look into this matter seriously? How much percentage of GDP we were investing in fixed assets? Sir, I will tell you one number, sir, the statistics which is important and relevant from that perspective when you wear those spectacles to analyze what is the role which is being played by the successive government, then you will see that fixed asset investment in case of in India, it is 30 or less than 30% of GDP, while if you see the various other countries in the world, particularly I'm talking about the developed and even developing countries, which has 45 to 50% of GDP is investment through fixed asset investment. When I say fixed asset investment, I do not mean the infrastructure investment. I mean it is percentage of GDP of what is invested in industries, what is invested in infrastructure, what is invested in other industrial initiative. In India, is less than 30% compared to China, sir. I think it's a number which I think everyone should see. China invests 50% of their percentage of GDP in the fixed assets investments. And how much it translates into, sir? It is $8 trillion. $8 trillion. The number I think everybody must remember this $8 trillion. And out of this $8 trillion, sir, 28% alone is invested in is infrastructure space, which is $22.6 trillion. Take the number in 2020, sir. China has invested $2.6 trillion, which is 12% of GDP alone in infrastructure space. I think it is important for all of us to see what the Honorable Prime Minister wants. He wants to develop a modern infrastructure. How it can happen, sir, when we have a target of $5 trillion economy? Yesterday, I heard one of opposition member, I think he was talking about industrial investment growth, and I think it is important. I must mention those things. Sir, 100-meter sprint hota hai, और 400 मीटर जब होता है रिले होता है, तो आपको जब वो सब कुछ एवरेज में बताते हैं, एवरेज ऑफ माई UPA 1, average of industrial investment growth, average of UPA 2, I think, sir, it is important for all the members to know these important facts that जब रिले होता है तो एक आदमी दौड़ के बैटन दूसरे को देता है. उसी तरह 2004 में I will request everyone to see what was the industrial investment growth. Huda ji was yesterday saying industrial investment growth and credit growth had come off during Modi regime. And I will remind them, and I will tell them that number you must go and check. It is important for you to know the numbers, and it is important for you to analyze your own performance. In 2004, when we handed over the baton to UPA 1, the industrial investment growth was 24%, sir. And I must tell you how it has come off. It has come off every year, every year. I can give you every year data. And I think I will request opposition bench to must go and analyze every year how it has come off. And eventually, sir, it has come from 100, speed of 100, आपकी स्पीड हो गई 90, आपकी स्पीड हो गई 5-7%. मतलब आप 100 के रफ्तार से चल रहे थे, आप 10 से भी किलोमीटर के रफ्तार से कम हो गए. Means the industrial investment growth, when they handed over to us in 2014, it was 1.6%. Where we had started, when we handed over the government in 2004, it was 24%. Likewise, sir, when they speak about a credit growth rate, sir, I think it is important, and the honorable members must know, and must know, not see the numbers or the average. You must see the statistics. A statistic, when you see the statistics, when you analyze it, you see every single numbers, and then you collate it and then make the average. I think it is important for us to know, sir, that in 2004, when we handed over the baton, again I'm reminding you, the credit growth rate at that point in time was 20.7%, sir. What does that indicate? That there was a huge momentum in the economy. Industrial investment growth 24%, credit growth of 20%, there was momentum. There was a lot of economic activity. Everything was working in the right direction. And then what happened? Since 2006, somebody was mentioned, and I must tell you the numbers. Till 2002, in 4 or 5 years, sir, the bank, which had since inception in 1947, since our independence, had the total outstanding assets, or book size of bank, were 18 lakh crore, which in 4 years it became ballooned to 54 lakh crores, 3 times. How? Sir, किसी आदमी पर अगर बोझ दे दीजिए, उसके अगर क्षमता हो 50 किलो लेकर चलने की, और वो अगर आपने उस पर 500 किलो रख दिया, सर, जाहिर है वो आदमी नहीं चल पाएगा, सर. Likewise, it happened in the case of nationalized bank. They made it possible. The Honorable MOS Finance, Anurag Thakur ji, day before yesterday said, phone banking. Exactly, sir, phone banking. It was the mantra where without proper credit evaluation process, without doing any homework, loan was being sanctioned. Former Prime Minister is here. He's an economist. I'm sure that what I'm speaking, he will understand that most of the project which has been funded at that time, sir, if you discount with the discounting rate, you will have negative EBITDA. I had spoken in the budget speech, but I could not speak in detail. But I must tell you that at that time, most of the project were making loss at inception. Means it was forced to lend, or there was an arrangement which has facilitated this lending. And this lending, eventually what happened, sir? Credit offtake will have to come off in our case, because all this has turned to NPA, and all the corporate which had been lent was busy in deleveraging. When you are in deleveraging mode, how will you take loan from the bank? Bank is not in a position because they have huge NPA. Then you have a corporate who actually their loan has turned NPA because they had taken loan in anticipation that they will siphon money or do whatever it is, but it was not a profitable project, which will never take a start, which will never take off. Still, it has been funded, and I think it is important. The government plays a very important role at that time. It would have been a white paper at that time. The economy would have collapsed, because I remember at that point in time, economy, people were talking across the globe. What is the status of economy in India? Why there is a policy paralysis? Everything was spoken by the global players because nothing was moving here, except people are talking about how to hand over this economy, which is in terrible shape, to another government, because who can potentially have the ability to run, because we have seen in the past, 99 to 2004, they have the ability, they have the capacity, they have the honesty, they have the transparency, they have demonstrated everything to run a good governance model, and that is what they were waiting for, and the whole world was waiting for. Eventually it happened in 2014 when our government came. We didn't go for white paper because it would have been against the interests of our nation, and we never worked, never taken steps, not in the interest of the party, but interest of the nation. That is a priority of our government. And that's why we did not say anything about it. Had we spoken about that time and taken everything out in order, out in open, then probably they would have never even had a chance to speak about the loan they had sanctioned or facilitated at that point in time. Sir, you must understand, our government's initiative is what? We have to develop modern infrastructure. And that's why, what are the problems which these institutions were facing? All the institutions which were engaged in financing infrastructure project, you have to understand that, sir, there was inherent issues. There were some issues which was adversely affecting these institutions. That's why they didn't last long. And that was what? Because they didn't have the long-term, long-dated resources. If you don't have a long-dated resources, how will you fund long-dated loan or a structure of infrastructure project? Because all these infrastructure projects, sir, it has a long-dated. It is not a 2-year, 3-year where you can fund from out of banking book. So we have a problem. We have, IDBI has been turned into a universal bank. There was no other institution which can potentially raise long-term resources. Earlier, sir, under Section 4A, it was defined in the Companies Act that institution which is defined as a development financial institution can raise, including ICICI, I'm not saying only the public sector, including ICICI, which also became bank, was in a position to raise long-term money. But they were long-term money means it has to come from retirement benefit plan which is being run by pension fund or provident funds. So all those retirement benefit funds can invest there. Insurance companies invest. All this which has long-term liability, they can invest in long-term assets. So those they were able to some extent, they were able to raise resources and on-lend fund it. But sir, when they turn bank, they cannot, because all these infrastructure projects has long-term, these are all long-term projects. You have a bank where it primarily works on a model of CASA, current account and saving accounts. And then you have a time demand deposit, which is again running 1 to 3 years. If you take a weighted average, you will have a maturity of 1 year, not less than that, not more than that. So you have a liability in the bank which has a maturity of 1 year, and you are funding an asset which has a maturity of 14 years, 15 years, 20 years, 25 years. How can it happen, sir? Means you are running a big mismatch. If you are running a big asset liability mismatch, you are bound to fail. Because one more issue, sir, if the government never emphasized today, I think this, I'll come to that point also, sir, that these are the issues which has been identified by in this bill and which has been addressed also. Like, for instance, sir, a bank, if you force a bank to take give a loan to infrastructure structure project which has a door-to-door maturity of 18 years or 20 years, but they have only 1 year liability. So every time they have to raise resources from the overnight market to fund those projects, which is not a sustainable model. And especially as the Honorable Finance Minister just stated, that many of the project is a greenfield project, and it has no recourse. So it's not collateralized based lending, it is based on primarily on cash flows. And if you just do a back testing of all the years which has been funded all the infrastructure project, there were two types of projects, sir. One, I must say that there are, when the credit evaluation was done, and as to assess the cash flow modeling of all those projects, then many of the cases, yes, I agree that it has been validated, revalidated, and ascertained in a manner that, yes, it has enough headroom to sustain even if the cash flow varies to some extent. And if there is a volatility in cash flows, in future cash flows, then of course it can sustain because we have given certain cushion to ensure that those kind of knee-jerk reaction can absorb those kind of reaction. But sir, most of the project at that point in time, what was the approach of the bank? Bank's approach was to have as low as their exposure, means in terms of door-to-door tenure. So if you have funding a 25-year project, and if you have only 10 years, you want to fund for 10 years, they will eventually, tail risk will be there, and they will, either they will have to refinance, or they will have to find a way out. Secondly, sir, to ensure that, because they knew that it cannot happen, so ensure that they are actually projecting a cash flow which is not sustainable, which is not factually correct, and that is why they suggest that, yes, DSCRA, that is the way it is evaluated, a debt servicing coverage ratio, it is something which is giving more than 1%, means there is a potential this company can service those debts which has been outstanding on the book. So those are the approach which has actually been adopted by the various banks. And eventually what happened, we have seen many of the projects which could not take off for various reasons, which had problem because of this structure, they could not, or the cash flow modeling which was done at that point in time was not factually correct, or not taken the actual cash flows which will generate these companies. So eventually they had all become NPAs. They started defaulting because bank was only interest was that you have to have amortization schedule or approach which actually safeguard their interest. So it didn't work, and that's why it was important. It was important, sir, I'm repeating, it was important to set up a development financial institutions which will ensure not only financing, also developing the framework of infrastructure space. And sir, there is a famous book, Kural, and Tirukural. I think many people, honorable members, would know about this book. It is a pious book in South India. In that book, it has been said that no time, there's no good time, like the book suggests that where there's a good time and where the good intent, it binds and it becomes a rope and binds the wealth. And I think there can't be better time and better opportunity to develop or to set up a development financial institution now than ever in the past, because we have a lot of things going for us. India has become a prominent global market. India has, yes, there are certain things which India needs to have, like the Honorable Finance Minister just mentioned about the bond market. Because if you just see globally, sir, unlike India, where the projects are being funded by who? Banks. There's no financial institution. In the absence of financial institutions, it's being funded by banks. But if you just take the Western world, banks do not fund those projects, sir. And I must tell you, everyone should know that banks do not fund those projects. We are following that model. Bank only funds retail. The long-term project is being funded by the capital market. We do not have a capital market, and that in the absence of those liquid capital market, bank is funding those projects. So government has envisaged this problem, and that's why the Honorable Finance Minister has spoken about it, that we need to develop. I think one of the honorable member has spoken how and what way it can be developed. Of course, they have failed to develop because it's not a today's demand. A long-term bond market needs to be developed, which has liquidity, which can even, you can go down the rating curve, and still a small corporate can access to the market and raise resources, is something which has been envisaged by our government, and I'm sure going forward with the Honorable Finance Minister under the leadership of the Honorable Prime Minister will be able to develop it and demonstrate that we have the capability and capacity to do that. And I do not want to go into detail because I can speak for us only on the bond market because this is something which plays to my strength, sir. But I can only remind that you must remember when the government securities market opened for the market, then it is this government, it is our government in India one, had set up primary dealership. And today, the liquidity, kind of liquidity we have, is something which everyone knows. And primary dealership role plays the two-way course it gives. It creates liquidity. And what is important that you have the market which actually has both buyer and seller. And that is something which can be done and which will be done by our government. And I'm sure that we will have a liquid market and we will be able to demonstrate that a liquid bond market is something which, like the Western world has, we will be able to develop it here because all the infrastructure project is being funded by the capital market. Today, the foreign resources which the honorable member was talking about, that we shall not access to private capital. I think, sir, it is important to realize that there is a cheap capital available across the globe. And if you just access the global market, especially when you have a company like a new development financial institution which is backed by the government, has a lot of resources available. We can channelize those resources for our infrastructure development. There are several sovereign wealth funds, sir, who wants to invest in the country. They know that the infrastructure is the one which actually is the right place in India where you look at right, left, wherever there is an opportunity, whether it's road, port, and everything, there is an opportunity in the infrastructure space, and they are looking for such opportunities. I think you need to have a vehicle, we need to have platform. And today with this development financial institution, we will have a perfect platform to channelize those private capital into the country, which will be used for developing a sound infrastructure financing in the country. Sir, a few minutes I will take.
Please
I've just taken 22 minutes, sir.
Conclude 1 or 2 minutes.
I've taken 20, sir. At least 25 minutes.
नहीं, जो पार्टी ने टाइम दिया उसके अनुसार माननीय जफर इस्लाम जी, please.
As always, I will comply because you have always told me to conclude, and I have concluded. But today, I will take liberty for 2 minutes, sir. Sir, only while concluding, I would want to tell you, sir, this is the best time, most opportune time. We have a demographic dividend. This will bring a lot of opportunity, prosperity, and benefits to the country because we have a dream of $5 trillion economy. I'm sure that the Honorable Finance Minister would know at what CAGR rate we will be able to achieve by 2025. But at the back of the envelope calculation, if I do, I see that 11%, if I continue to grow, we will be able to achieve $5 trillion economy. And I must tell you, sir, the momentum in this infrastructure, if we have, and the kind of investment which we have envisaged, Jairam Rameshji said paid up capital of 1 lakh crore. I just want to correct him. Maybe by mistake he said paid up capital is only 20,000 crore. This authorized capital is 1 lakh crore. And on the top of that, government is also giving grant of 5,000 crore. And why government is giving grant? Because first, the tax saving which we have, they have a debt present value, they have calculated and assumed that 5,000 crore grant should be given to this organization. I don't know how it will be treated in the balance sheet, whether it will pass through P&L or it will sit as government security settled asset side and the interest will be earned. All these things, modalities, I think finance. But one thing I just want to tell you, sir, that $5 trillion economy, modern assets, it is this government who has envisaged will be able to deliver because both in terms of the dream and both in terms of the leadership quality which we need to take important and put together important legislation has been done and will be doing to ensure that this is done. Thank you very much for the opportunity, sir.
Thank you. माननीय सुजीत कुमार जी, Honorable Sri Sujit Kumar.
Thank you, sir. Sir, this is a very important bill. We all recognize and appreciate the need for world-class infrastructure in our country, sir, to meet the aspirations of $5 trillion economy, to meet the dreams of our youth, to leverage the potential of demographic dividend that my previous speaker, Honorable Member Jafar Saab, was talking about. Sir, and to meet this, to build this world-class infrastructure, we definitely need financing. Sir, many developed economies, be it USA, UK, Canada, have legislations which have benefited those countries to meet their need for infrastructure financing. DFI is not new in India, sir. As Honorable Member Jairam Rameshji eloquently outlined the history of DFI in our country starting from 1948, be it IDFC, ICICI, IFCI, NABARD, SIDBI. So DFI as a concept is certainly not new in India. We all know that traditionally banks and financial institutions in our country finance infrastructure projects. But banks rely heavily on short-term liabilities, whereas infrastructure projects, because of their long gestation, 20 years, 30 years, even 50 years, are dependent on long-term financing. So exposure to short-term finance, bank finance, also distorts the asset liability equation of the banks, sir. So the other way of financing infrastructure, long-term financing, is through the bond market, is through issuance of bonds. And as Honorable Member Jairam Rameshji also pointed out, the bond market in India is not deep, it's not liquid, it's pretty shallow. Now that's a separate argument why it's deep and what can be done to, why it's not deep and what can be done to deepen the bond market. But as on date, the bond market in India is certainly not in a position to finance heavy infrastructure projects, be it road, be it railway, be it port, be it energy or urban infrastructure. Hence, sir, the need for a bill like this, which will pave the way for setting up of NABID, National Bank for Financing of Infrastructure and Development. This will be the principal development financial institution in the country, which in turn is expected to fill the gaps in infrastructure financing that I just spoke about. Sir, NABID will initially be wholly owned by the Government of India, but its stake will be gradually reduced to 26%. So while diluting the equity is okay, I hope that the government will ensure adequate checks and balances and accountability. Sir, this DFI NABID is expected to create a lending portfolio of at least $5 trillion in about 3 years. This is a huge sum, sir, which will potentially revolutionize Indian infrastructure, generate jobs, boost employment, and lead to a virtuous cycle of economic growth in our country. Sir, in recent years, there were concerns over a lack of infrastructure financing. The previous DFIs, ICICI and IDBI, have since been evolved into commercial banks. So there was the need for a professionally managed DFI to act as an enabler, provider, and catalyst for infrastructure financing. Against this backdrop, this DFI model has been revived to fund long gestation infrastructures because there has been a spike in bank loans also, sir, in recent years. In any case, banks' liability profile is not suited for long-term funding as they are largely tailored for working capital. Sir,
please conclude now.
Just one more minute, sir. Sir, I'll make a mention of the National Infrastructure Pipeline.
Please conclude.
Sir, one more minute, sir. I'll make a quick mention of the National Infrastructure Pipeline, over 100 lakh crores. So hopefully, this NABID will augment the aims and objectives of the National Infrastructure Pipeline. Sir, to conclude, while setting up of this new DFI in India, through legislative and budgetary provisions is not a big challenge. The real challenge, sir, will be once it is established, to adequately capitalize it, to manage it properly, and to ensure that it's committed to its goals and objectives as articulated in the Statement of Objectives and Returns.
Thank you.
Sir, the Honorable Finance Minister has promised a professional establishment. Sir, it remains to be seen
I'm calling
if the
other
government
person.
can avoid macro
Honorable
management. Sir.
Sujit Kumar ji, please conclude.
Sir, lastly, sir.
Dr. Banda Prakash ji, please.
Thank you, Deputy Chairman, sir. Sir, we support the bill on behalf of our Telangana Rashtra Samiti. Sir, the bill seeks to establish the National Bank for Financing Infrastructure and Development as the principal development financial institutions for the infrastructure financing. DFI are set up for providing long-term finance for such segments of the economy where the risk involved are behind the acceptable limits of the commercial banks and ordinary financial institutions. Unlike banks, DFI do not accept deposits from the people. The source of funds from the market, government, as well as multilateral institutions, and are often supported through government guarantees. Sir, initially the central government will own 100% shares of the institution, which may subsequently reduce to 26%, might be 74% through FDI. Financial objectives will be directly, indirectly lend, invest, attract investment for infrastructure projects located entirely or partly in India. Central government will prescribe the sectors to be covered under the infrastructure domain. Sir, the central government will provide grants worth of rupees 5,000 crores to this bank by the end of first financial year. The government will also provide guarantee as a conditional rate of up to 0.1% for borrowings from the multilateral institutions and sovereign wealth funds and other foreign funds. Sir, the bill also provide for any person to set up DFI by applying to RBI. RBI may grant a license for DFI in consultation with the Government of India. Sir, setting up a new DFI in India through budgetary and legislative measures is not a difficult task, but big challenge will be emerge once established. It should ensure that it will be well capitalized and well managed and remain committed to its distinct goal and core values, sir. As our Dr. Jairam Ramesh ji mentioned, there should be some controls on such institutions. I request the Honorable Finance Minister also. It can be amended without any controls from such institutions. It will only on faith if it has to run. It is very difficult in the present Indian conditions. Once again, I request Honorable Finance Minister it is a good initiative they have taken. This is the high time to mobilize resources because Government of India now taking up almost all 900 infrastructure projects in the country. Therefore, it should be effectively maintained. For that, whatever the controls we have to make,
Please conclude, Dr. Vanda.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vanda Prakash ji. Honorable Sri Subhash Chandra Bose Pilli.
Sir, thank you very much, sir, for giving me the opportunity. And also, I am saying, on behalf of YSR Congress Party, I support the bill, sir. Sir, this is the first major budget announcement after yesterday's finance bill that the Honorable Finance Minister implementing clearly indicates the speed with which she wanted more. The object is liable since DFI aims to push the long-term infrastructure funding, which has become a big problem now. Honorable Finance Minister is on record saying that 6,000 brownfield and greenfield projects are pending for funding as of January 2020. Secondly, National Infrastructure Pipeline expanded to 7,400 projects with an investment of more than 100 lakh crores between 2020 and 2025. So, achieve this, the need of the hour is DFI. Hence, I support the bill. Sir, Honorable Finance Minister is aware that DFI is not a new phenomenon, and the UK's Commonwealth Development Corporation, which is also envisaging interest to invest in DFI, is the mother of all the DFIs, as it is objective is to work as a catalyst, fill the existing gaps and enhance lending in infrastructure sector. Point number 1, sir, if you look the enacting formula of the bill, it clearly says that it supports the development of long-term infrastructure financing, and if you look at the definition of infrastructure under clause 2K, it says that it covers the list infrastructure sectors notified by the central government from time to time. So, I would like to know from the Honorable Minister whether DFI covers 1. Social infrastructure such as education, healthcare, water supply, urban infrastructure, green infrastructure, and digital infrastructure such as automation technologies, artificial intelligence, 5G, blockchain technologies, etc. Or does it focus only on conventional sectors like power, roads, telecom, etc.? This may kindly be clarified. Sir, it is also fine in an investor for a project of rupees 400 to 500 crores. But if the project cost is 2,000 to 3,000 crores, it is not easy to get loan since appraisal feasibility analysis and preparation of DPR needs through interventions analysis, and it is also needed money for this.
Please conclude on rule.
Sir, so I wish to clarification from the Honorable Minister whether DFI also mandate to provide finances for project feasibility studies.
Honorable Subhash Chandra Bose, please conclude.
Sir, taking advantage of this debate, I wish to reiterate that Schedule 13 of AP Reorganization Act given mandate to Government of India to take up and complete various infrastructure projects, be it Vizag-Chennai Industrial Corridor, a metro or major port in Andhra Pradesh, or steel plant at Kadapa, etc. So I wish to seek clarification from the Honorable Minister whether the proposed DFI will fund the infrastructure projects and as mandated under 15th schedule of AP Reorganization Act. Sir, with all these deviations, I support the bill, sir.
Thank you. माननीय विश्वंभर प्रसाद निषाद जी.
माननीय उपसभापति महोदय, राष्ट्रीय और संरचना वित्त पोषण और विकास बैंक विधेयक 2021 के लिए मैं खड़ा हुआ हूँ बोलने के लिए समाजवादी पार्टी की तरफ से. इसमें जो माननीय हमारे जयराम रमेश जी ने विस्तार में सारी बातें रख दी हैं, क्योंकि ये एक महत्वपूर्ण बिल है. इसमें जो महत्वपूर्ण बात कही गई है कि इसके लिए न तो कैग जांच करेगी, न सीएजी जांच करेगी, न ईडी करेगी, न पार्लियामेंट की पीएससी कमेटी जांच करेगी. इसलिए इसको सेलेक्ट कमेटी में भेजने की आवश्यकता है, क्योंकि अभी हमारे पास समय है. चूँकि महत्वपूर्ण बिल है और सरकार ने कहा है कि हम इसमें 20,000 करोड़ रुपए की पूंजी आधार के साथ और 3 साल में 5 लाख करोड़ रुपए का ऋण देने का लक्ष्य रखा है. और इन्होंने पहले भी यहाँ जो DFI थे, IFCI और ICICI और ईडवी. अब ये जो बैंक हमारा ये संस्थान DFI स्थापित हो रहा है, इस संस्थान में निवेशकों से धन जुटाने के संबंध में छूट देने का प्रावधान है. इस विधेयक में बुनियादी विकास के ढांचे को मजबूत करने की बात कही गई है. लेकिन जो देखने मिला है कि बैंकों के निजीकरण पर जनता का विश्वास नहीं है. बैंकिंग व्यवस्था किसी भी देश की अर्थव्यवस्था की नींव होती है. यदि बैंकों को नुकसान होता है तो प्रत्येक व्यक्ति पर असर पड़ता है. देश में तमाम ऐसे मामले आए आज देखने मिल रहा है. तमाम जैसे ये नीरव मोदी, मेहुल चौकसी ने PNB में 14,000 करोड़ रुपए का नुकसान पहुंचाया, विजय माल्या ने हजारों करोड़ का नुकसान पहुंचाया. इसी तरह से और भी तमाम बैंकों के घोटाले हुए. आज पूरे देश में जो 130 करोड़ 35 करोड़ से ज़्यादा लोग हैं, जिसमें करीब 15 से 20 करोड़ के लोग जो है बेरोजगार हैं.
उनके बारे में सोचना, चूँकि देश के विकास की उन्होंने बात कही है कि उसकी ज़रूरत तो है, लेकिन देश के नौजवान बेरोजगारों की भी तरफ देखना पड़ेगा। आज बेरोजगारी बड़ी चरम सीमा बढ़ रही है और देखने मिल रहा है कि एक तरफ विकास तो हो रहा है, जो बैंकों के या सरकारी जो सेक्टर के, चाहे आपका रेलवे हो या अन्य संस्थान हो, जो निजीकरण हो रहा है, उससे देश के लोगों में बड़ी निराशा और हताशा हो रही है। उनसे केवल यही कहा जा रहा है कि जब प्राइवेटेशन होगा वहाँ आरक्षण खत्म हो जाएगा और लोगों को कहा जाएगा कि आप जो है मनरेगा में काम करो और पकौड़ा तलो। तो देश के लोग, जो नौजवान हैं, जो देश की बड़ी सेना है, वो कहाँ जाएगी? ज़्यादातर प्राइवेट सेक्टर में जो है इनके शेयर दिए जा रहे हैं, यहाँ तक कि ग्रामीण बैंकों से लगा करके। क्योंकि कोई भी जो उद्योगपति होता है या जो बड़ी कंपनियां होती हैं, कभी घाटे के लिए काम नहीं करती हैं, वो नफ़ा के लिए काम करती हैं। बड़ी कंपनियां आए, ठीक है, देश का विकास होना चाहिए, लेकिन देश के जो बेरोजगार हैं, यहाँ देश के लोग हैं जो चाहते हैं सरकारी, उस पर ज़्यादा विश्वास है उनका, तो उसमें उनको ध्यान देने की आवश्यकता है। क्योंकि इस बिल में जो सबसे बड़ी बात हमने कही है कि सब जांचों से बाहर रखा गया है, इसलिए इसको सेलेक्ट कमेटी भेजने की आवश्यकता है।
धन्यवाद।
धन्यवाद।
धन्यवाद। माननीय श्रीमती झरना दास वैद।
Thank you, sir. I thank you for allowing me to speak on the National Bank for Financing Infrastructure and Development Bill 2021. For any developing country, including India, financing of infrastructure project is a challenge. Generally, these projects are not commercially viable and do not provide high returns. At the same time, they carry multiple risks and the risk of execution, low tariff collection and escalation for financing cost. Therefore, it is important for the government to set out the structured financial mechanism for this project. The earlier DFIs were created during the pre-economic liberalization era. During that period, given the controlled nature of the economy and a protected industry, lending to the industry was relatively similar. The business model of DFIs was uncomplicated. Post of the economic liberalization in 1991, when the industry started opening and a lot of special benefits to the DFIs were withdrawn, the equation suddenly changed. At that time, there were 3 large DFIs that were involved in financing the large greenfield industrial project. They are IDBI, ICI, NAC, whose financing was 2.26%, and IFCI, NAC, whose financing was 4.63%. At a time when the government is bent on privatizing some of the public sector banks, creating a sense of anxiety and anger among the 10 lakhs employees in the banking sector, they are already out on the street protesting. In fact, they have issued a warning that if the government goes ahead with this privatization move, they may resort to a long bank bond agitation. Sir, the current bill does not contain adequate provisions of National Bank for Financing Infrastructure and Development's accountability to the stakeholders and the public at large. In conclusion, sir, setting up a new DFI in India through budgetary and legislative measures is not a difficult task, but big challenges will emerge once it is established to ensure that it is well capitalized, well managed, and remains committed to its distinct goals and core values. Thank you.
Madam. Thank you. Professor Manoj Kumar Jha ji.
शुक्रिया डिप्टी चेयरमैन साहब. दिस नेशनल बैंक ऑफ फाइनेंसिंग इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर एंड डेवलपमेंट पे बहुत जोर है. एंड आई बिलीव, आई कोट, very few words are as feeble, as fragile, and as incapable of giving substance and meaning to thought and behavior as development. World over, this word itself is a crisis. I am not talking about the crisis of development. So, जयराम जी ने हम में से बहुतों का काम बहुत आसान कर दिया. शुक्रिया जयराम जी. माननीय डिप्टी चेयरमैन साहब, आज़ादी के बाद इस तरह के कई प्रयोग हुए और हमारे साथ दिक्कत क्या है ना, सिर्फ इस हुकूमत के साथ नहीं कि हम अपने, कोई कह रहे थे कि इतिहास से आप सबक नहीं लेते हैं. जो असफलताओं का कारण रहा उन इंस्टीट्यूशंस का जिन्हें हमने बनाया, उन कारणों की पड़ताल के बगैर अगर आप एक नई बॉडी बना रहे हैं जो कि ह्यूज बॉडी है, विशाल बॉडी है, रौंदने की भी क्षमता रखती है, मैं समझता हूं कि उस पर एक बार पुनर्विचार हो. ये सलाह के नजरिए से कह रहा हूं सर. अंडर सेक्शन 5 it says centers shall own at least 26% of its stock at all the times. बड़ा गर्व का विषय है कि 26% हमारे पास रहेगा, 74% कहीं और रहेगा. अब ये 74%, मुझे ये जानना होगा मैम फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर, हाउ मेनी कंट्रीज इन द वर्ल्ड एक्चुअली अलाउ प्राइवेट कैपिटल with this quantum of controlling stake? That is a point of worry, and I hope you take my worry away. और दूसरी बात, आत्मनिर्भरता का बड़ा जिक्र होता है और मैं सोचता हूं कि ये कौन सी आत्मनिर्भरता का मॉडल है. कम से कम बचपन से जो हमने पढ़ा सीखा, ये आत्मनिर्भरता अगर है तो आत्म और निर्भर के बीच में एक इतना बड़ा हाइफन है जो शायद कभी भरा ना जा सके. सेक्शन 35 ओवरसाइट की बात जयराम जी कर चुके हैं. निगरानी या पर्यवेक्षण का होना किसी भी बॉडी के निर्माण के साथ ये एक बहुत महत्वपूर्ण पहलू होता है. आप कोई भी बॉडी बनाएं, अगर निगरानी के लिए इसमें कहा गया है नीदर एनी इन्वेस्टिगेशन एजेंसी कैन कंडक्ट एनी इंक्वायरी नॉर एनी कोर्ट कैन टेक एनी कॉग्निजेंस इनटू एलिज्ड crime or whatever have been committed under any law. सर, इस तरह ये पारदर्शिता पर पर्दा डाल रहा है. मैं चाहूंगा मैम फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर, with good intention you have to actually jettison some of these doubts, clarify them and tell us that actually it didn't mean, and that's why I believe कि हमें इसकी कोशिश करनी चाहिए थी कि इसको हम सेलेक्ट कमेटी में भेजते और एक बार तमाम स्टेक होल्डर से बात होती और उसके बाद होता. आपने बजट में भी कहा था कि 7,000 प्रोजेक्ट्स हैव बीन आइडेंटिफाइड अंडर द नेशनल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर पाइपलाइन. मैं माननीय वित्त मंत्री साहिबा से जानना चाहूंगा कि इसमें से बिहार के हिस्से में कितना है. और मैं बार बार आजकल कह रहा हूं मेरे राज्य को लेकर के बस एक चीज कि बिहार को विकास की भूख है और उस भूख को, मैं आप ही की सरकार की बात नहीं करता हूं, मैं तो ये कहूंगा सन 47 के बाद से बिहार को उसका हिस्सा, उसका हक नहीं मिला है. बहुत बड़ी बड़ी बातें हुई लेकिन बिहार सर, और मैं फिर दोहराता हूं कि बिहार के विकास की भूख को इस पाइपलाइन में कुछ प्रोजेक्ट्स लीजिए इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर में और उस भूख को खत्म करिए. सर, माननीय डिप्टी चेयरमैन साहब, खत्म ही कर दे रहा हूं एक शेर के साथ. जब हम ही ना महके फिर साहिब, तुम वादे सबा कहलाओ तो क्या, कुछ दिन तो बसो मेरी आंखों में, फिर ख्वाब अगर बन जाओ तो क्या.
धन्यवाद. डॉक्टर नरेंद्र जाधव जी.
Thank you, Deputy Chairman, sir. Sir, I rise to wholeheartedly support this bill, the National Bank for Financing Infrastructure and Development Bill 2021. Sir, the main challenge post-COVID-19 is to pull up the economy from unprecedented depth to which it has reach. As we are aware, in the financial year 2021, the real GDP growth rate is estimated to be minus 7.7%. So since we want to pull the economy up from the depth that it has reached, the principal objective, as I see it, of the budget 2021 was to facilitate the real economic growth as much as possible, and there are predictions of more than 11% growth in the coming financial year. In order to achieving high growth is not a big challenge, but sustaining that growth is a big challenge. If we want to achieve and sustain the high economic growth, the Indian economy is going to need a very strong infrastructure base. The government has already been doing remarkably well in the arena of infrastructure, and this will get a big boost in terms of setting up this particular National Bank for Finance, Infrastructure and Development Bill 2021. Sir, my colleague, member Jairam Rameshji, made a number of points, and I'm sure the Honorable Finance Minister will take care of the points that were made by him. I personally do not want to go into the political economy of the infrastructure, but I would rather look at it from purely as an economist's point of view. Sir, another honorable member, while defending Jafarji, talked about China's huge infrastructure investment. This is absolutely correct, but let us not forget that the gross domestic saving rate of China has been unprecedentedly high, exceptionally high. So what we do need to do is to encourage and promote gross domestic saving rate in India, which after achieving the peak of 38% of GDP is now come down to 31-32%, and this needs to change, and I'm sure the Honorable Finance Minister will take care of it in the forthcoming budget. But I agree with the Honorable Member Jafarji in as much as he says that the timing today is most propitious for tapping foreign direct investment, especially when many investors, several investors are withdrawing from China and looking for opportunities elsewhere. And also, today the global economy condition is such that very large amount of funds are sloshing around in the global economy, and we must take advantage of that. We must take the best of the opportunity, and therefore, I believe, sir, that our policy would have to be two-pronged. On one hand, we promote domestic saving, and on the other hand, we promote foreign direct investment into the infrastructure sector with adequate precautions. Sir, with all these remarks, I commend the bill for passing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Nayan Jadhav ji. Mani Shri Narayan Das Gupta ji. 3 minutes.
Thank you, sir, for giving me this opportunity. Sir, when I was going through this bill, what I have noticed is, because if I go through section 5, there is a clause for allotment of shares. Although originally the shares will be allotted to the central government, and finally it will be retained only to the extent of 26%, rest which go to the number of other institutions, and they are named here. This, sir, multilateral institutions, sovereign wealth funds, pension funds, insurers, financial institutions, banks, etc., etc. Out of this, sir, the definition of two institutions has been given here under section 2, insurer and the pension fund. The definition for the other shareholders and contributors, that is not given. I would like to know from the Honorable Finance Minister why this is so. Sir, this because the 70% will be held, the share capital by the, not by the Indians, by the elsewhere. So from the draft of the bill, it seems that it has not been drafted in India, it has been drafted somewhere else. I would like to know, because the reason is, sir, there are a number of things which has been given. If we go through section 37, what is mentioned here is, sir, that the loans and advances given, its validity will not be challenged by anyone. As Jairam Ramesh ji has said, it is not subject to any scrutiny, neither by the CAG nor by other independent authority or the surveillance. And that's why what is that, no, it will not be challenged by any the validity of the this. I fail to understand why this section 37 it has been said like this. And sir, because there were already our other friend from the Treasury bench here said why this has come. Because it will not only the finance, it will provide finance, but it will develop the finance. As Jairam Ramesh ji has said, that there were already about 10 institutions who will already in this business of providing finance and developing of the finance. And what has been told here, that because there are certain inherent problems in those sections, they fail to do that. So why we are creating this? And one thing I have noticed, sir, अभी हम जो पीरियड से गुजर रहे हैं वो जो है निजीकरण कर रहे हैं, पीएसयूज को हम प्राइवेटाइजेशन की तरफ जा रहे हैं और एक पीएसयू और क्रिएट कर रहे हैं. ये दिस इज ए विरोधाभास है गवर्नमेंट की, सरकार की पॉलिसी में. जो ऑलरेडी पीएसयू जो है उनका निजीकरण कर रहे हैं और एक पीएसयू और जो है नया हमारे इसमें प्रावधान करके लाया जा रहा है. दूसरा सेंस आई विल से बिकॉज it should be, this audit provision should be through audit CAG, because as per section 27, what is stated it that it will go as per the Companies Act, because this is the total will be financed and by this to start with by the Government of India, which should be subject to the scrutiny of the CAG, and because there is no other agency which has been authorized to do the scrutiny of the business of the this new I will say the finance company. With this, sir, I would like to say that it should be sent to the select committee, and let the select committee should apply its mind and see what are these things, how it has come, where already there are.
Kindly conclude.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Shri Kanak Medla, Ravindra Kumar ji.
Thank you, Madam, for giving this opportunity to speak on the National Bank Financing Infrastructure and Development Bill. I think the intention of starting these banks may be very good. There is a sovereign guarantee being given to this. The idea of the sovereign guarantee to give low-cost loan, loans is very good attempt. We want development banks, we want infrastructure banks. The whole idea of this bill is long-term sustainability. This bill is going to have very serious financial implications on all our infrastructure projects. Infrastructure is an enabler for growth and development. India is a signatory to substantial Sustainable Development Goals 2030, improving case of living and improving physical quality of life. Each individual is core of SDG. According to the recent estimate, India would need to spend $4.51 trillion on infrastructure by 2030 to realize this vision. A 5 trillion economy by 2025. The adequate investment in infrastructure will meet the above mentioned factors. Madam, every government needs strength to implement any infrastructure projects. Madam, if a project is stalled due to any reason, and if it is not received with specific time frame, it will become stressed assets. The bank which finances the projects will face the issue of NPA. There are various bottlenecks in the infrastructure projects implementation. There are several instances various international funding agencies pull out from the projects. For example, a Korean company which was keen to finance with the light metro rail project in Visakhapatnam on public-private partnership mode, the Korean side, after examining the proposal, conveyed their inability to finance the project. The project is still non-starter. For the last 7 years, the write-off amounts is more than 2 lakh crores for the more than 10 public sector banks. And recovery is very less, maybe it may be less, 10% subject to correction. The question is recovery of the rest of the amount. We have to address the above issue before passing this bill. The need of the hour is seriousness in enforcement of projects. The instant bill has been designed in such a way it will provide necessary inputs to infrastructure sector. Under these circumstances,
Honourable Member, kindly.
yes, finally, the clause number 35, it is in the, there is no CAC, CAG, no CBI. It requires to rethink about this clause. However, under these circumstances, the proposal of the government to bring this legislation is a very welcome move.
Thank you.
I hope and believe that all of the
conclude.
stalled projects across the country will see the light. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you. Shri Satish Chandra Mishra ji.
Madam Vice Chairman, for giving this opportunity. Now, looking into the limited time, I would straight away come to the main issues. While applauding the intention and behind bringing this bank for the purposes of development, which is which should be the core thing for this country, which is required at this moment. And if not only because we have failed in earlier attempts, this attempt should also fail. That should not be the presumption. But while saying that, I would like to bring certain things to the for certain clarifications from the Honourable Finance Minister, and I'm sure she must be having those answers with her. The first is with respect to Clause 5, where foreign investment, which is mentioned also in Clause 22, with foreign investment, to what extent multilateral institution has not been defined, and to what extent the foreign investment can be taken. It is entire 74%, or there will be some restriction onto that requires to be, the Honourable Finance Minister would obviously be having the answer. The second issue is with respect to Clause 20. Now, Clause 20 says that performance will be reviewed by an external agency every 5 years. Now, this external agency has not been defined in the definition clause or anywhere. Which will be this external agency and what is meant by this external agency, and why every 5 years? Why not every year? Because in 5 years, whatever wrongs or whatever things would have come, it cannot be rectified in the 6th year. So it should be, and why it has been kept, we would like to know from the Honourable Finance Minister why this time gap of 5 years. Now, Section 29, it permits private players also to set up financial institutions in the same lines. Now, whether this provision was required to be brought in this act, which is specifically with respect to a government bank, it's a national bank. Now, whether private investors who will be have been permitted similar thing to be brought by them, will they get all those immunities which are being provided to the national bank? It has not been clarified. And what are the norms and conditions which they will have to follow? Because in Section 25, in Section 35, it has been mentioned that the agencies, CBI, etc., and all those agencies, including ED, CBI, police, and CS fraud, they will not have any right to investigate. But it is not correct that they have no right at all. You have provided in Clause 35 itself that it can be done, but with the previous approval. Now, only one thing I have, the previous approval of the competent authority, which has been defined. But at this moment, I would like to know from only half second, half a minute, from the Honourable Finance Minister, that the third proviso to this Section 35 negates the entire section, because it says that if first proviso, second proviso gives a time limit that within this period, a sanction has to be given, approval has to be given. But then third proviso says if it is not given within this time, then it will not be deemed to be automatically given. So that means if a competent authority does not give at all, and this period of proviso first and second has no meaning left. So this may be considered whether this clause of proviso 3, which says that if not given, then it will not negate, what is the impact of that?
Thank you. Thank you, Honourable Member. Shri Praful Patel ji, he is not present in the House, so Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you. And I thank all the honorable members who have very briefly but obviously raised very critical issues about this bill, which is seeking the acceptance of the House and to get passed. I'll try to address as much as all the questions that have been raised, but largely on many critical issues, I find members have referred back to the initial questions posed by Honorable Member Jairam Ramesh. So the 12 members who have spoken today and the issues that they have raised largely evolve or reel around the critical questions raised by Member Jairam Ramesh. But before I respond to the important questions raised by Jairam, I would like to just very quickly tell about the institution itself. Honorable Chairperson, sir, this is definitely a unique institution. Whilst India has always benefited, irrespective of party, politics, government, which is run by this party or that party, India has always benefited by the various institutional mechanisms which have been created every now and then to either with the statute or outside of it. They've all been created to benefit and to service the needs of the time which they've serviced and for which they have come out. So as the institutions were set up and as they contributed towards India's developmental requirements, and as time passed by, when their character and the references made to them also had to adapt and change accordingly. So some changes were coming in and some adaptations have happened. However, as one of our honorable members observed, many of them have outlived their time. So we have to obviously learn lessons from all of them, but yet not be so close-minded about, well, we've tried that earlier today, why should we go back? Need not be a handicap. On the contrary, sometimes when it is necessary, we may have to go back to a setup, which is, in this case, a statutorily backed institution, which many of the countries in the West, which are, if I can use loosely the term, which are very capitalist in nature, have also adopted that a parliament-backed institution will have to give that kind of a heft for institutions which are funding development. So we are not doing anything in the sense of decrying institutions which existed earlier, but now going back to doing the same thing. It is clearly the need of the hour and need of the next 25 years in India's developmental story that we need an institution with that kind of an architecture which has both the strength of the government backing it, at the same time being able to face the competition in the market. This act itself, as you would have, all honorable members would have recognized, gives space for private institutions also to come up, for whom we are giving the tax benefits for just 5 years of the first 5 years, whereas this institution gets the tax benefit for the first 10 years. So therefore, we have learned from the earlier experiences, and therefore we've designed it in such a way that it has the blend of both. And I'll just go back to underlining the need, establishing the need as to why we need an institution of this nature. Now, 2019 budget had this budget announcement of 100 lakh crores which will be invested for infrastructure over the next 5 years. By that year end, we came up with a national infrastructure pipeline which had more than 6,000 then, now which has grown up to 7,000 such projects, all of which relate to infrastructure, and infrastructure just not roads and bridges, but the definition of what constitutes infrastructure is also something which I very quickly want to refer and inform the members. There is an April 2016 notification which is also very clearly identifying of the infrastructure subsectors. Many of the members said, what is it? Infrastructure means only the roads and bridges. The transport, energy, water, communication, and water sanitation, communication, social commercial infrastructure are well defined So this institution will fund all of those activities, and it is not going to be just confining itself to bridges and shipyards and ports. Social infrastructure includes educational institution, so the capital stock of the institution will be treated as infrastructure. Hospitals, again, capital stock will be treated as infrastructure. So these are also part of what is defined as infrastructure, which this developmental finance institution will fund. So this list itself is rather self-explanatory about how expansive this institution is going to be looking at in terms of the field for which it is being created. So then, from among the lessons learned is the fact that development finance is highly risky an area. It is long-term in terms of gestation, and you also need higher credit costs to be calculated, and therefore the failure possibilities also become a part of the calculation. And therefore, this is an area in which, like the way we've seen in the last decade or so, regular scheduled commercial banks entering this domain always creates asset liability mismatches, because these banks borrow short-term and lend long-term. As a result, there's always going to be an asset liability mismatch, which is not going to be good for the financial sector. So the other point which is very clearly got to be recognized even at the beginning is, it is not as if we are dependent only on FDI. It is not as if we are dependent only on sovereign funds which come to invest in Indian infrastructure. I agree, Indian infrastructure will have to be funded even by Indian savings, Indian investments. But to create Indian investments, or to create an ecosystem for Indian investments to be able to invest in building infrastructure, the ecosystem will have to have some kind of a institutional arrangement, which is what I said in the budget, and rightly it was pointed out by Jairam Ramesh. And I will give a separate answer for that as to what is that institutional mechanism which Honourable Member raised as a question, saying what is that institutional mechanism which you think you're going to be bringing in, both for deepening the bond markets and also for funding infrastructure. For funding infrastructure, I'm speaking today about this statutory All India financial institution that we are creating, which will have both developmental and financial objectives. Developmental is that it shall be the provider, that it shall be the enabler, and that it shall be the catalyst for the ecosystem of infrastructure funding. It will also support every attempt to deepen and to bring in more liquid bond market of international standards. It will facilitate the development of derivative markets and also other innovative financial instruments. So on the financial side, very clearly it will be the institution which will lend for infra projects, and more importantly, it will establish a credible framework for both equity and debt investments. It will attract investments from both domestic and global institutional investors, as well as domestic retail investors. So we are not just depending on FDIs. So we need to recognize that we have made a provision for leveraging both the capital available within the country and also through the global institutions. Ownership, very quickly, all of you all have very clearly read that and spoken about it. We start with 100%. Eventually, sometime, long time afterwards, it will come down to 26, but there will always be 26% presence of the government at all times. Very quickly, also on the governance structure and management, it will be professionally run. The government will appoint only the chairman. But the institutional arrangement for the appointments of members or the MDs and the DMDs will be done and recommended by the Bank Board Bureau, the BBB, and it will be vetted and finalized by the Nomination and Remuneration Committee of the board. So the appointments will be done by the board and not by the government, so it will have to be professionally run. And all the safeguards have been provided, and on that point, a lot of members have raised this question saying, you have given them safeguards, you've given them far too much of safeguards, they are not going to be answerable to anybody. I will definitely answer that by going back for a minute to clause 26, if I remember correct. Clause 26 in chapter 6 of the Act itself, which is before us for consideration. And there you will see in paragraph 5, and I read that as a quotation from here, the institution, which is this institution that we are considering today, the institution shall furnish to the central government and the Reserve Bank within 4 months from the date on which its accounts are closed and balanced, a copy of its balance sheet and accounts, together with a copy of the auditor's report and a report of the working of the institution during the relevant year. Honorable Member Satish Mishra did raise why only 5 years. No, every year. But the report later by a third party is on once in 5 years. But here we are saying every year. So the working of the institution during the relevant year, and the central government shall, as soon as maybe after they have received by it, cause the same to be laid before each house of the parliament. We are getting that report, audited report, to be placed in each of the house of the parliament. Now, the institution shall furnish from time to time to the central government and to the Reserve Bank of India such returns as the central government or the Reserve Bank may require. Every time the government would want something from them, they will demand of it, and it will have to be submitted by them. The point that Honorable Member Satish Mishra raised was for a third-party assessment about their whole, functioning, which can be done once in 5 years, is what we have said. But otherwise, every year audited account comes to each house of the parliament. I want to absolutely state that upfront. It's part of the Act itself. We are not saying we are going to bring it in the rules. It's made as a part of the Act that this shall come to the parliament. Resource raising capacity, we've already spoken about it. I understand Jairam Rameshji talking about the capital, that we have provided the authorized capital of 1 lakh crore, and 20,000 is the equity we've given, and about 5,000 crores is given as grant, so that they can immediately start looking at ways in which cost of funds can be brought down, so they will have something in lieu of potential cost savings expected from the issue of a tax-free bond and so on. The issue again about sovereign guarantee. I want to just underline that yes, a sovereign guarantee is being provided, but that is only, that's the provision provided under section 17(3). It's an enabling provision with the decision to be taken by the government. So it's not as if it's blanket, it is an enabling provision which is mentioned under 17(3). So resource raising capacity is something which is very clear. Priority sector lending shortfalls, we will take that also on board. Access low-cost funding even for the priority sector lending, which sometimes suffers for want of resources, even that will be addressed by this. Even better, this institution will be able to access the line of credit from RBI. Therefore, it will be possible for it to very quickly meet up the demands, particularly from the social sector, for creating the infrastructure in that area. Other notable features of this bill, sir, which I would want the honourable members' attention drawn, are that the framework to enable RBI to issue licenses and issue regulations for granting of licenses for other infrastructure focused DFIs in the private sector is also provided for in this law. So what will happen is RBI, if it finds an applicant meets the regulation as stipulated by it, is completely compliant, they will be in a position to consider issuing licenses. So there will be, for healthy competition, creation of DFIs in the private areas also. As I said earlier, they will be exempt from tax for 5 years. The institution and other DFIs will operate within the prudential framework of RBI. This institution shall also have that role of an institution to resolve disputes which may arise in the field of infrastructure funding. So broadly, the character of the institution is, as I described here, specific issues of concern which were raised by Honorable Member Jairam Ramesh, which was referred to by many members, is this is not beyond oversight. The reports every year are going to come to the House of the Parliament, both houses. Audited reports are going to come in here. And as and when the government is going to ask them for a report, they are duty bound to give it, and it shall come here. So Parliament's oversight annually is envisaged and built into the Act itself. So that question definitely gets answered. There was this question about, it's all right, you're looking at funds coming from elsewhere. What happens to incentivizing savings within the country? How are Indian savings going to be? So DFI will need long-term funds, and that is well recognized. It will therefore have to be able to issue long-dated paper domestically, and which in turn will encourage domestic savings. And with this said, I now go to that point which again Jairam raised about my budget announcements. I want to read that from the budget. To instill confidence among the participants in corporate bond market during times of stress and to generally enhance secondary market liquidity, it is proposed to create a permanent institutional framework. The proposed body would purchase investment-grade debt securities both in stressed and normal times and help in the development of bond market. This is what I had said in the budget. I'll just explain as to how this institutional arrangement is being envisaged. Mutual funds, as we know, sir, account for 60 to 70% of trades in corporate bond market. Commercial papers and certificate of deposits thereby facilitating fundraising by issuers who are banks, corporates, NBFCs, and also housing finance corporation. A cardinal principle of mutual funds is liquidity. Their liquidity depends on liquidity of their invested instruments, particularly corporate bonds. However, liquidity, illiquidity, and market freeze is particularly dominant in corporate bond market, especially around stress times and distressing selling by mutual funds, leading to a contagion effect. We saw recently how, because of one of the mutual funds having a genuine problem, it had a very rattling effect in the market. So, sir, there is clearly an advantage, which all of us recognize, in moving to the bond market from a bank finance-led model to avoid asset-liability mismatch, issues which arise out of it, transparent pricing, and also to take more market-oriented systems. And that is why, as the financial sector evolves from a bank-dominated system to a more market-oriented system, supporting financial markets become an important aspect and important step which the government has to be responsible about. Hence, a permanent arrangement mentioned in my budget, a permanent arrangement of an SPV facility is considered for providing liquidity so that they can act as the buyer of the last resort during stress times and to some extent even acting as a market maker during times of peace. The SEBI, therefore, will be setting up a fund titled Corporate Debt Market Development Fund, CDMDF, which will be set up as an alternative investment fund to provide this liquidity facility to mutual funds and other participating institutional investors in the corporate bond market. This essentially means it will function as the buyer of the last resort for stressed corporate bonds which are of investment grade during stressed times. So the key mandate of this particular facility which the SEBI is creating as a fund, development fund, trading will be one of it, trading in corporate debt with a focus on below AAA rated papers. But however, those papers will have to be of investment grade during non-stress periods. And the second and the final is to have capability to buy and hold single or a basket of corporate debt securities from secondary market during times of systemic stress. We saw that happening during late 2019 and also when liquidity was an issue, when NBFCs were sitting with a lot of papers which were not even investment grade. There was a lot of effort put by the government together with the Reserve Bank to sort that out between the NBFCs and the banks. That experience has been teaching us a few things which I'm glad the SEBI is addressing in this form so that they will have a given formulation to address such stress during stressful time and during peaceful times, how to handle it. So the SEBI is working out the operational details of this facility in consultation with the Department of Economic Affairs. The special SPV is proposed to be jointly set up with the contribution of the mutual funds and also other institutional investors. However, the majority ownership shall be with a subsidiary of a public sector mutual fund. So that's the arrangement, in short, which was indicated in the budget speech. Sir, I think also one other issue which I would like to draw the members and their I would like to draw the attention of the members and for them to take cognizance of. And this is a very interesting aspect which SEBI had mentioned to me even during the COVID period. There is naturally a tendency now, particularly the savings which comes out of middle classes, to not be risk averse. So they don't mind moving out of post office savings or bank savings into the stock markets. They are looking at very credible, well-listed, transparent, board-driven decision-making companies and directly investing in them. So Indian savings is not purely now dependent on risk-free public sector savings. It's also moving into the stock market. How do we establish that? I've got a month-by-month data in the year running from January 20 to February 21. The growth in the number of DMAT accounts opened during the month, DMAT accounts of which 99% of them are, of these DMATs are individual category accounts. So they are not large funds which are investing, but the DMAT accounts here that I'm telling you is of individual category accounts. If in January 20 there were 6,30,292 DMAT accounts opened during a month, that today is gone to 17,88,654 individual accounts. Now, if this is during the month, they obviously open and shut, and end of the month is the indicator that we take. There has been a 27% growth in the end of the month account, that which continues to be there. February 20, sir, there were 4,1,29,252 DMAT accounts at the end of the month, which means they continue to be there, which today has reached 5,31,14,800, a 27% increase, which means today Indian savings indicator is not just that which goes into savings accounts which are risk-free in the banks or in post offices, but they're moving towards directly engaging in the stock market with listed stock shares which are open there for everybody to see. Many of them may not probably even go through the mutual fund routes. So these are the ways in which the savings attitude of the Indian citizens are changing, and unless institutions make provision for it, like the way the SEBI is thinking in terms of a fund, like the way this DFI is coming up, like the way the NIIF is, the National Infrastructure Investment Fund, all of which have a chance, and like the way, I take this opportunity, LIC funds infrastructure, no doubt, rightly pointed out by many members. But LIC should also now be accessible for that retail investor who wants to invest in them. So this IPO is not for government to get out of it, whereas to make more Indians participate in it, to put the money, a very large amount of what LIC has today is policyholders' money. Whereas when individuals want to become owners of it, they are being given an opportunity by the IPO so that they can invest. So to have policyholders' money is one thing, but to have Indian retail investors to become owners of shares of LIC is a totally different thing. So I think we have to recognize both these much before we even think in terms of, oh, what's happening? Is it all getting privatized? No. Many of the IPO owners which are going to go to the retail investors are making retail Indian owners to become part of the LIC's ownership framework. So, sir, these are the broad features. I think I've answered many of the members' concerns. One last point which Honourable Member Satish Mishra raised, private versus public. Treatment is not at par, obviously. I can't give everything that I give for a government-run DFI to a private institution. I give the initial 5-year tax incentive only because I want more funds to come to them also. It shouldn't become I've created a government institution with all the, let's say, lollipops, and the private one doesn't have any, and therefore they are not getting equal treatment. I've extended the tax benefits for 5 years, but after that, they should be smart enough to become competitive enough. I think I've answered why 5 years. I didn't notice that. You may want to. Can I please take the liberty of writing back to you on it in detail?
Where CBI, etc., all agencies.
Oh, that is why I said.
No, in the third proviso, second proviso, it is said that within 3 months, the competent authority will give the approval, extended by 1 month. With reasons. But third proviso says if it is not given approval within this time,
I get you.
It will not be required. So that
yes. No, I think I would want you to. Yes, it very clearly explains that within a certain period you are expected to give the clearance. And if you don't, normally you have a positive affirmation saying it should be deemed as given. Here we're putting it the other way. It is not deemed as necessarily given. You take it within 3 months, otherwise, sorry, no, it's not happening. That's the implication. So with that, sir, I hope I've answered all the members' concerns.
Thank you,
and
Thank you, Finance
appeal
Minister.
to everybody to pass
The question is that the National Bank for Financing Infrastructure and Development Bill 2021 has passed by Lok Sabha be taken into consideration. Those in favor, please say aye. Those against will please say no. I think the ayes have it, the ayes have it, the ayes have it. The motion is adopted. We shall now take up class by class consideration of the bill. Class 2 to 48, the first schedule and second schedule and the third schedule stand part of the bill. Those in favor will please say aye. Those against will please say no. I think the ayes have it, the ayes have it, the ayes have it. Class 2 to 48, first schedule, second schedule, and the third schedule are adopted. Class 1, the enacting formula, the title stand part of the bill. Those in favor will please say aye. Those against will please say no. I think the ayes have it, the ayes have it, the ayes have it. Class 1, the enacting formula and the title are adopted. Honourable Finance Minister, to move that the bill be passed.
Sir, I rise to move that the bill be passed.
Motion moved that the bill be passed. The question is that the bill be passed. Those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. I think the ayes have it, ayes have it, ayes have it. The bill is passed. Permitted special mentions. Because of the paucity of time, the member whose name is called should raise in their seat and say, I place my special mention one line on the table of the House. Srimati Kanta Kardam, not there. Okay. Sri A.D. Singh, Sri A.D. Singh ji.
I place the special mention on the table of the House.
Thank you. Sri Sakaldeep Rajbhar. Sakaldeep Rajbhar ji.
इसको इस
सभा पटल पर
रखते हैं।
ठीक है। श्री हरनाथ सिंह यादव।
सभा पटल पर रखता हूँ।
गुड। श्री जयप्रकाश निषाद।
रखता हूँ।
श्री राजीव सातव। राजीव थे हाँ। ठीक है। श्री राम विचार नेतम। नहीं। श्री अखिलेश प्रसाद सिंह।
Rule of the House.
Right.
Sir,
Pollution in Patna.
This is about Patna.
Right.
And Muzaffarpur.
Srimati Priyanka Chaturvedi.
Honorable Chairman, I'd place my special mention on the, on the table of the House.
Right.
Thank you.
Don't worry. Sri Kailash Soni. जी
पटल पर रखता हूँ।
ठीक है। मेरा स्पेशल मेंशन सभा पटल पर रखता हूँ ऐसा करना। And I wanted them to make it short and everybody is making further short. श्रीमती ममता मोहंता। माँ।
स्पेशल मेंशन में सब्जेक्ट उड़ीसा का राउरकेला में मलेरिया सेंटर को ट्रांसफर ना करने पर।
राइट। श्री वी विजय साई रेड्डी।
Sir, I place my
special mention. Special mention.
Sir, I place my special mention on table. The special mention is relating to increase the participation of women in electoral politics.
Right.
Thank you.
श्री सुभाष चंद्र बोस पिल्ले सुभाष चंद्र बोस जी हाँ
I have submitted my special mention and demand to restore Samta Express and Mangal Lakshmadeep Express with their old timings.
Dr. Sasmit Patra.
Table of the House. The issue is regarding inclusion of 13.95 lakh houses of PMAY in the permanent
Right. Dr. Ami Agnik.
Sir, I lay the papers of my special mention on the table. The issue is need for immediate steps and comprehensive policy for the homeless people of our country.
Sri Mallikarjun Kharge.
Sir, just I wanted to raise it, but unfortunately, the time is not there. Sir, I wish to raise a very grave issue of attack and harassment of two nuns who were traveling from Delhi to Orissa via Haridwar, Puri, Kalinga, Utkal Express.
Right.
So rest, I
right on the table.
lay on the table.
Sri Shiva Pratap Shukla.
एनसीईआरटी में की पुस्तकों में उनको स्थान नहीं दिया गया है। उनको एनसीईआरटी की पुस्तकों में स्थान दिया जाए क्योंकि उन्होंने डच ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी को हराया था। और मैं सदन के पत्र पर रखता हूं।
Honorable members, three of our colleagues, Sri Vavilala Ravi, Sri K.K. Ragesh, and Sri Abdul Wahab, representing the state of Kerala, will be retiring on 21st April 2021 on completion of their term of office. Members, among the other things, an institution is made as well as defined by the individuals constituting it. Individuals may come and go, but the institution keeps on functioning. Pulsating with the contributions made by the individuals, this institution always be functioning. Similar has been the case with this great institution, which has largely been shaped by the lasting contribution of the members who have come and adored the office and left after playing their part. Carrying forward the legacy of retiring members have contributed significantly to deliberation of the House and parliamentary committees and in the process have nurtured and strengthened our parliamentary democracy and enhanced the dignity and prestige of this august House. They may be leaving the House, but their contribution will leave an indelible mark on this august institution, which the members as well as the newly elected members will continue to cherish and benefit from them. I place on record my heartfelt appreciation for the valuable contribution and service rendered by them to this august institution and to the society at large. The House will certainly miss their vivacious presence and their unwavering commitment to the issues pertaining to the state of Kerala and also to the national issues of importance. I wish the retiring members good health, happiness, and many more years of service to the nation. They are only retiring, but they are not tired. So, Sri Vaidala Raviji is an active social worker and a writer. He held important positions, member of the 5th and 6th Lok Sabha and also member of Kerala Legislative Assembly. From 82 to 91, Sri Ravi also served as member of the Rajya Sabha for 4 terms. Sri Ravi has dedicated his entire life to public service and has served many important distinguished positions in the state and the national and international level. He served as Union Minister for holding several portfolios as overseas Indian affairs, parliamentary affairs, civil aviation, science and technology. 1 minute, Raviji, I'll call you. Earth science and micro, small and medium enterprises, and also chairman of the department-led Parliamentary Standing Committee on Human Resource Development. Beside this, he also served as the Home Minister of Kerala. You want to say something? Please.
Thank you, sir. Respected Chairman, I elected to this prestigious institution in 1970. Sorry, I'm a little emotional. 1971, an elected member of the Lok Sabha from Trivandrum district. In fact, I born in the Vailar village in Alapi district. Vailar is still very famous because of the revolution by the Communist Party in 1946. I was a school student. I still remember those days. Mr. Chairman, my political life began during my days in ST College, Alapi, and Magaras College, Ernakulam. And Ernakulam Magaras College in my life, which I found my partner, Mercy Ravi. Unfortunately, she is no more. Prime Minister Indira Gandhi raised the slogan, Garibi Hatao, in 1971. I won an election, and I won the election and began up my parliamentary life as one of the youngest members of the Lok Sabha. I enjoyed actively participated in all kinds of activities in Lok Sabha and re-elected in 1977. But I lost in 1980 because people more sensible than me, because I went against Indira Gandhi. So, it's a fact, is it not? Huh?
You have the guts to say that.
The Congress party has given me the opportunity to serve the people of our country as a member of Lok Sabha for 2 times and Rajya Sabha for 4 times. And between I became a cabinet minister for 8 years. I am very thankful to the Congress party and the leader of Indira Gandhi and others for giving me this opportunity to serve our nation, the Mother India. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Raviji. Great. All the best.
Emotional.
Sri K.K. Ragesh, MP, is an active social worker, avid writer. He served as member of the Rajya Sabha from April 2015 to April 2021. Sri K.K. Ragesh has authored a book titled Swasaraya Niyama Pratiksha Prativirodham, which translates into Act to Regulate Self-Finance Institutions, Problems and Projects, Prospects 2007. Besides this, he has also served as editor of the Karshakanadam, Voice of Farmers, and also published several articles on a wide range of issues relating to economic and agriculture sectors, farmers, their rights, education, telecom, and petroleum sectors in leading dailies and periodicals. Honorable members, you are all aware, Ragesh is one of the most active members in this house. He always used to add to the enlightened debates. So we'll be missing him, but he'll be active in public life, I am confident. And he's not there because you know the reason. He's busy there. Sri Abdul Wahab is an industrialist, an active social worker. He has also served as member of the Rajya Sabha for 2 terms. Sri Abdul Wahab served as the chairman of various organizations, including Keralium, an NGO working for HIV-affected people, Calicut Airport Development Committee, and also as president of the Nidambur Orphanage, etc. He also is a member of Islamic Chair, Calicut University, Kerala State Hajj Committee, and also Kerala Waqf Board. He is also associated with many of the education institutions. Sri Wahab, want to say something, please?
Thank you, Chairman Sahib and the Rajya Sabha team. I came here in 2004 during the time of Vajpayee when he was Prime Minister. That time, Rajagopal ji was the Parliamentary Affairs Minister, and he supported me the first few months. He taught me how to run this Rajya Sabha and all. And Mr. Vijayaraghavan of CPM and Samadhani of my party was there that time. Till 2010, I was here, and again 2015 I came. I could work with as Vajpayee, then Mr. Our Sadalji Singh, and now with Modi ji, all 3 prime ministers and different parliamentary affair ministers also. Starting it was Rajagopal ji, now it is from our own place again. It is an iron, I don't know how it came. Now Mr. V. Muralidharan. And I am very happy to retire now, but unfortunately I don't know for what reasons this government or with the law ministry making some references. Election Commission has stayed the Rajya Sabha election. I don't know, I will be coming again. But anyway, if Rajya Sabha is there, I will try to come again here. Because I don't know yesterday what happened in Delhi. AAP government was ruling, suddenly all the powers given to LG. Just like that, I don't know, Rajya Sabha charge will be given to somebody else later. So if Rajya Sabha is here, I will try to come again, and I hope so. And all my respect to you, especially being the chairman, gave me a lot of chances. And I tried my level best as a member of parliament. I appreciate whatever political, ideological differences between Modi ji, but his one project which attracted me, this village adoption. This I have done my level best, and according to Government of India, I got the 5th rank in my this one, Sansad Adarsh Grama Yojana, this one. I am, even though I am not in Rajya Sabha, I will be working on that project without Sagi and all, concentrating on taking the panchayats and all, this one sponsoring. And I will try to come if Modi ji allows me to come here again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bhabji. You don't worry, Rajya Sabha will be there. Meanwhile, you start working in local sabhas, and then at an appropriate time, if God willing, then you will get an opportunity. I hope the entire House joins me in conveying best wishes to these 3 members. Kharge ji, LOP.
Sir, today we bid farewell to 3 of our colleagues from Kerala, Sri Vaila Ravi, Sri P.V. Abdul Wahab and Sri K.K. Ragesh, who are retiring. I wish to place on record my deep appreciation for their dedicated service as parliamentarian in this House of Elders in raising effectively various public welfare issues. They have been relentless in their efforts to constantly strive for upliftment of people, particularly those from the marginalized sections of society. Despite having different political ideologies, because all the three members have got different ideologies, but still they are one in doing the work of public. This is the strength and greatness of India's democratic polity, which is inclusive, truly representative, and wholly welfare-oriented. Sri Vailar Ravi has been associated with us for more than 50 years. I have had the privilege for voting for him twice in AICC Working Committee in Tirupati and Kolkata. He was always pro-poor and is a strong believer in the sacred values of secularism and socialism. At the same time, our other two colleagues have also been committed to the cause of the people of this country. I wish my retiring colleagues all the best, good health, and I am sure they will continue working for the greater public good in future too.
Thank you, Kharge ji. Leader of the House.
माननीय सभापति महोदय, आज केरल से आने वाले और केरल राज्य का प्रतिनिधित्व करने वाले श्री अब्दुल वहाब जी, श्री के रागेश जी, श्री वाइलार रवि जी तीनों अपना सफलतापूर्वक कार्यकाल पूरा कर रहे हैं। तीनों सदन में ये केरल प्रांत का प्रतिनिधित्व करते थे। हमारे वरिष्ठ सदस्य हैं, सदन की कार्यवाही में सक्रिय रूप से भागीदारी सुनिश्चित करते रहे हैं। शेष बातें जो आपने उल्लेखित की है उससे अपने आप को सहमत करता हूं और मेरी हार्दिक शुभकामनाएं तीनों सदस्यों को है। ईश्वर उन्हें स्वस्थ रखें, सानंद रखें और भविष्य में भी इनके विशिष्ट और व्यापक अनुभवों का लाभ मिलता रहे, ऐसी शुभकामनाएं देते हुए उनसे अपेक्षा करता हूं, विश्वास करता हूं कि वे देश हित में और जनहित में काम करते रहेंगे। धन्यवाद।
धन्यवाद तवरचंद जी। Honorable Leader of the House, Sri Tawarchand Gehlot ji, respected Leader of the Opposition, Sri Mallikarjun Kharge ji, Minister of Parliament Affairs, Sri Prahlad Joshi, and also Sri Muralidharan, Honorable Leaders of various parties and groups in the House, and Honorable Members, Honorable Deputy Chairman, we are concluding the 253rd session of Rajya Sabha today. This is the second session of Parliament which has been held under the shadow of pandemic, in which all COVID-related protocols and standard operating procedures evolved during the last monsoon session to conduct the session in a safe environment have been followed. I am happy to note that the cooperation of all members, we were able to conduct the business of the House smoothly. Honorable members, as Chairman of this August House, I would like to give a brief account of the performance of this House during this session. As you know, this budget session of Parliament is being adjourned a day ahead of its schedule, as against total 33 sittings scheduled from January 29th to April 8th. We are concluding after having 23 sittings. The budget session provided opportunities to members of this House to deliberate on the issues concerning economic growth and recovery, especially in the post-COVID phase. Honorable members, this House functioned for a total of 104 hours and 23 minutes against the total scheduled time of 116 hours and 31 minutes during these 23 sittings. This, in effect, means the productivity of this House, including both the parts of this budget session, has been about 90%, while the productivity of the first part of the session has been 99.6%. Productivity of the second part of the session that began on March 8th comes to about 85%. A total of 21 hours and 26 minutes of the House has been lost due to disruptions during this session. Comforting, however, is the fact that as against this loss, the House sat beyond the scheduled time for about 14 hours and 28 minutes to complete the legislative and other business. I am happy to inform you that high productivity witnessed during the last 4 sessions since June 2019, 249th, 250, 251st, and 252nd sessions have continued in this session as well. As a result, overall productivity of the last 4 sessions and this session comes to about 94%. I appeal to all to maintain this positive momentum in the functioning of the House during this year as well as in future also. We need to strive towards achieving 100% productivity, knowing that we are working under extraordinary circumstances. Honorable members, I am happy to note that this August House saw a passionate and quality debate and discussions on the motion of thanks to the President's address and the Union Budget 2021-22. The discussion on motion of thanks on the President's address took place on 4 days with a duration of 15 hours and 37 minutes, with 50 members taking part in it. The Union Budget was discussed for 10 hours and 43 minutes on 3 days, with 45 members participating in it. It may be noted that 0 hour on 4th and 5th February, question hour on 3rd and 4th and 5th February, and the private members' business on 5th February were dispensed with to give more time for discussion on motion of thanks on the President's address. Honorable members, as regards this legislative output, this House has passed 19 bills, including consideration and return of the appropriation bill and the finance bill. 34 hours and 4 minutes time has been spent on the discussion of the government bills, which comes about 42% of the total functioning of the time of this House spent on legislative business. As many as 199 members participated in the discussion on the bills. Some of the important bills you are all aware: Kashmir Reorganization Amendment Bill, Arbitration Conciliation Amendment Bill, Major Ports Amendment Bill, Medical Termination of Pregnancy Bill, National Commission for Allied and Healthcare Profession Bill, National Institute of Food and Technology, Entrepreneurship and Management Bill, the Insurance Amendment Bill, the Mines and Minerals Amendment Bill, the Constitution Scheduled Caste Amendment Bill, the Government of National Capital Territory of Delhi Amendment Bill, and the National Bank for Financing Infrastructure and Development Bill 2021, etc. Honorable members, the working of 3 important ministries, namely Jal Shakti, Railways and Tourism, has been discussed for 11 hours and 13 minutes, which comes to about 11% of the total functional time of the House. 61 members participated in the discussions on the functioning of these ministries. Members raised a total of 273 issues of urgent public importance through 163 zero-hour submissions and 10 special mentions. The zero-hour submissions and special mentions made during this session covered a wide range of important issues. As regards the question, a total of 113 starred questions have been orally answered, which comes to 34% of the total 329 starred questions listed. 11 hours and 50 minutes have been spent on seeking answers from the government through these starred questions. Ministers also made statements on important issues such as avalanche in Chamori district of Uttarakhand, the present situation in the eastern Ladakh, recent developments pertaining to the welfare of Indians abroad, NRIs and PIOs in the COVID situation, India's vaccine Maitri initiative, and a vehicle scrapping policy. Honorable members, during the recess period, 8 department-related parliamentary standing committees of the Rajya Sabha examined demands for grants and related ministries and departments for the financial year 2021-22 and presented 28 reports in this regard. Besides, these committees presented 21 action taken reports and 6 reports on subjects taken up by them and 2 reports on bills referred to them. I compliment the chairmen and also members of 8 department-related parliament standing committees of Rajya Sabha for their efforts towards improving the functioning of the committees. However, there are some areas of concern, such as the less attendance of members and the duration of the meetings, which need further improvements. I urge all the party leaders of respective parties to sensitize their members to take the committee's work seriously, given their importance and relevance in our parliamentary system, ensuring executive accountability on behalf of the parliament. I propose to communicate to the leaders about the attendance of their members, each members, so that they can take stock of the situation, advise the honorable members in this regard. Honorable members, orientation program for the newly elected and nominated members was organized by Rajya Sabha Secretariat on 13th and 14th March to familiarize them with rules and procedures governing the functioning of the Parliament, particularly Rajya Sabha. I am happy to note there were the encouraging response members. Out of 71 members, 34 members, including Honorable Minister for External Affairs, Jay Shankarji, attended this program. I am told that the members were highly appreciative of the contents and conduct of the program. I compliment the Secretary General and his officers for successfully organizing the program. Honorable members, as I have mentioned in the House, earlier I mentioned that we are entering the 75th year of our independence. And to mark this historic occasion, the government have planned to celebrate it as Azadi Ka Amrita Mahotsav, with several events spread across the country. While this special occasion provides all of us, citizens of the country, an opportunity to cherish the values and ideals of our freedom fighters stood for and helped our country to gain freedom from the colonial rule. It also calls for serious introspection of the functioning of our legislatures and their members. People expect meaningful and purposeful debates and discussions, high standards of conduct from their elected representatives. Members of the Parliament have to work diligently and effectively to meet the expectations of the people. As House of Elders, Rajya Sabha has to lead by example. Our responsibilities have become more onerous, especially in the context of these pandemic challenges, which calls for determined and corrective efforts by all stakeholders. Therefore, we should be guided by the mantra of debate, discuss and decide, and we proceed towards Atmanirbhar Bharat and not disrupt. This is the only way forward in these challenging times. This will go a long way sustaining the trust and confidence of the people in our parliamentary institutions and in deepening the democratic culture of our country. Honorable members, we have been able to contain the spread of the pandemic in the country with the coordinated efforts of all concerned, with center and states working as Team India. It's a matter of pride for all of us that India is playing an important role in vaccination drive of many countries with supply of millions of doses of vaccine to several countries. There is, however, surge in the COVID-19 cases in some of the states, which is a cause of concern for all of us. I had also made an appeal to the members of Parliament. I once again reiterate the same. Please guide the people to follow the guidelines issued by the central and state governments for containing the spread of virus. As people's representatives, members of Parliament are expected to be available for consultation and guidance required by the people in the states and the constituencies. As the vaccination process is underway, I also appeal to all of you who are eligible to take the vaccine and also see to it that eligible people volunteer to take this vaccine. Even though the vaccines are being administered, we should not lower our guard against the virus. The Prime Minister aptly said, Dawa hai bhi, kadai bhi, reminding that the people to guard against the complacency and continue to follow COVID-19 appropriate behavior. Honorable members, the prevailing pandemic has forced all of us to adopt a novel methods to adapt to this new situation with greater use of digital resources. This time, as you know, our digital copies of the budget documents and economic survey were also made available to all concerned. Members continue to submit their notices for various parliament devices through the e-notice portal to avoid physical handling of the papers and personal contact with the parliamentary staff. Parliamentary papers of the session were also made available on members' login portal for the convenience of the members. I am happy to note that the members have used the facility of e-notice to submit notice for various parliament devices, as 9,862 notices were received from them through this portal. I urge all of you to use this online facility to the maximum possible extent so that we could adjust to this new normal. I take this opportunity to thank the Leader of the House, Leader of the Opposition, Ministers of Parliamentary Affairs, leaders of various political parties and groups, and also honourable members for their cooperation extended by them in the overall functioning of the House. The credit for better functioning of the House do not go to the chairman. It goes to all the members. With your cooperation only, this is made possible. So you have a onerous responsibility to see that all of us maintain standards and set example to others. In the end, I offer my special thanks to the Deputy Chairman, Sri Harivamsiji, and members of the panel of Vice Chairman for the seamless conduct of the proceedings of the House. I place on record my appreciation to the Secretary General and his team for hard-working and committed officers, and also the staff of the Parliamentary Security Forces for their untiring efforts. My warmest greetings to all of you on the occasion of Ugadi, marking the beginning of the Telugu New Year. In fact, this is actually a festival time when many people across the country usher in the New Year. A few days ago, Parsi brothers welcomed the New Year, Navroz. Sindhi brothers and sisters will be shortly welcoming the New Year as Chetti Chand, while the people of the two Telugu states, Andhra and Telangana, call it Ugadi, and in our neighboring Karnataka, it's called as Ugadi. The people of Maharashtra celebrate it as Gudi Padwa, and in Tamil Nadu, it is observed as Puthandu, which is falling on 14th, while our Malayali sisters and brothers celebrate the occasion as Vishu in Kerala, and the Punjab always they have the festival of Vaisakhi. In Odisha, it is called as Pana Sanskriti, Polila Varshika, Bangla Navavarsha, ushers in the New Year in West Bengal. Bohag Bihu marks the beginning of the New Year in Assam. The names may differ, but the festive spirit suffused with joy, hope and togetherness is the same. Ensuring this, we also have the Good Friday that is also coming, and also Ram Navami, the coming days, Mahavir Jayanti, Eid al-Fitr and Buddha Purnima also. I also take this opportunity to compliment both print and electronic media, including Sunset TV, for their sustained interest in the proceedings of the House and their transmission to the people. My best wishes to all of you once again. I have sent greetings today because we will not be here on 14th April and also onwards. That's why greetings have been sent to your respective places in your respective mother tongue. I wish you all the best. Sabko shubhkamnaएं. Thank you. Jai Hind. होली का सबको होली का शुभकामनाएं।